Hi everyone and welcome. In this review note, we are going to get iSCSI target set up on our Windows server so that it can act as a storage device or storage array for our vSphere environment. First thing I'm going to do is install the iSCSI target role. Add roles and features. Keep the server. The iSCSI target server is actually a component of file and storage services. This one right here. Go next, and install. This is going to finish installing, and once that's done, a reboot is required, and we'll continue on from there. Okay, so we're back from the reboot. A couple of things to do here. One, I need to configure the network adapter that's going to be used for network storage. Right now I've got one adapter configured, which is for production traffic. The second adapter needs to be configured for storage. One thing I'm going to do, which is common practice, is rename my adapters so that it's easier for management. And I'll configure IP on my storage adapter. My storage network is 172.16. I'm going to keep the third octet in common with my production network, and I'm going to keep the host component the same as the host ID on the production network. Pretty common practice to use the same numbers for the host ID and all the different network adapters. Makes troubleshooting a lot easier on the network. In this case, I do not have a default gateway or DNS server since that's handled on the production network. That's set up. The other thing I need to do is configure the iSCSI target. Go down into iSCSI. This is now installed. There's a link here to create a new virtual disk, or that's under tasks as well, depending on where you would like to select that from. And this will start a fairly extensive wizard. The first thing I'm going to do is specify that iSCSI storage is going to be on my E volume. And I'm going to name the virtual disk. Call that whatever you need to. We have to specify the size. I'm going to make this one 80 gigabytes. And I'm going to make it dynamically expanding, meaning the file will start off tiny and grow as required. We're going to have a new SCSI target. The name for this, again, we will assign as required. And we also have to specify the initiators that are going to be allowed to consume the target. This is fairly important to make sure that our security is in place and that the initiators are going to be able to access the resource. A couple of different things that we can do here. If the initiator is actually on Windows, then we can specify the host that we want to be able to access, and it'll look up the initiator on its own. It's not the case with vSphere. I'm going to enter the IQN number for this. This is the IQN for my first iSCSI host. It's very important to make sure that the IQN you enter here is the one that's going to be configured on the initiator. If those names do not match, then you won't be able to access the storage that's being presented. And I'm going to do that one other time for my second host. There's my second host IQN, add that in. What we're seeing now is the target that we're creating, only these initiators will be able to see and therefore consume the storage that's being presented out. I have to specify if we're going to enable authentication, which we are going to do. We'll enable CHAP, specify a username. This is not an AD user. And optionally, we can also enable reverse CHAP. Enabling CHAP means that the initiators are going to authenticate to the storage array. We can also do reverse CHAP, which will also force the array to authenticate to the hosts. We're not going to use that in this case. Say next and create, and that will set up our iSCSI target. Okay, that's finished up. Here is our virtual disk. And if I scroll down a little bit, here is the target that's the disk is associated with. We can see our server name, the target name. This is not yet connected. It will be once we finish configuring the vSphere side, and the initiator IDs that are allowed to connect into and consume this particular storage. Just to look at what ended up happening from a real storage perspective. If I open File Browser, navigate to E, here's a folder called iSCSI Virtual Disks, which was created automatically when we set the target up. If I open this, here is that virtual disk that I created. And notice right now this is a very small size. It's only 4 KB, so a single block that has the information in it about the actual virtual disk. Once we start storing information into this disk, we will see that size grow quite dramatically. One other thing that we need to do on servers, I'm going to configure iSCSI. And the main thing that I want to do here is ensure that iSCSI traffic is only sent over my storage network and not my production network. I'm going to delete that guy. And that's all I need to do for that. So wrap for the video. Hopefully this has been helpful for you, and we'll see you next time.